Okay, hello. Welcome to Home Cook School for DT. Welcome to my kitchen. I will be taking you through how to make a crumble today. If you don't have the recipe, print it out. I've put the link for it on the Microsoft Teams. And what we'll do today is we'll bake an apple crumble. I'll take you through all the steps, and then hopefully by the end of it you'll have a delicious crumble, just like mine. We'll see. During the time today, I'm going to show you what this is. Maybe you can have a little guess. What do you think this might be? How am I going to use it? So all will be revealed later on in the video. If you have one of these, then good for you. I think they're great. But if you don't, maybe you'll want one. Anyway, let's have a look at our ingredients. So, first things first, it says on the recipe that you'll need 100 grams of plain flour. So I've weighed this out already. I have some digital scales, so it's very easy to do. I just pop my empty bowl onto here, and then I pour in, I have to turn it on, there we go, and then I pour in the flour until it says 100. Now this has got a really useful feature. As you add more ingredients to it, you can just keep zeroing it. So if your scale has that at home, you can add, say, one ingredient to it, and zero, and then another and another. So you don't actually have to weigh them all out into separate bowls like this. I've just done it to make things easier today. So if you have a scale that does that, then great. If you don't, just use the numbers on the ingredients and you will be fine. So first things first, you'll need 100 flour, and then you'll also need 50 grams of butter. So I've chopped it up and I've left it on the side just to warm up a bit. You want it to be a little bit warm because you're going to rub it together with your fingertips. So we'll put the butter into the bowl like so. It's a little bit sticky, so it needs a little bit of help to get in. You're going to get your fingers in there anyway, so it's not a problem if you have to use your fingers like this. Make sure, I shouldn't say this, but make sure you've washed your hands before you do this. I'm sure you have. If you've got long sleeves, then you can roll up your sleeves as well. It's a good idea, so you don't get flour on your arms and clothes and things like that. If you've got a watch, you shouldn't really be getting it on your wrists, but you can take it off just in case as well. That's not a problem. So the first thing you're going to do is to rub these two together. All right. Now the technique for this is you want to get flour and butter on your fingertips here. You shouldn't really have any butter or flour on your palms. If you're doing that, it means you're scrunching it up too much. It's just rolling those thumbs across those fingertips. So hands in, lift it and rub your fingers like this. So I'm doing it slowly so that you can see, but once you get the knack of it, you can go quite quickly. And you're just rubbing that butter just like this, you see, and rubbing in the flour. So it'll take a little while. I'm going to speed this up so that you can see the finished result in a second, but just keep going until you've got rid of all the lumps. So how do you know if you have rubbed in all of your butter and your flour? Well, there is a tried and tested method for this. I know that it hasn't, but just to be sure, give it a little rub, or pick it up and give it a tap, or tap it gently on the top. If you see lumps on the top, there's a big one, then it's not done. So you keep doing that until your flour and your butter is all mixed together. It should look golden brown, a bit like sand when it's been mixed together properly. So I'll keep going and I'll show you the end result in a minute. Okay, welcome back. We have some nice yellow looking breadcrumbs if you like, but it's just flour and butter mixed together. So I'll do my test, give it a bang. I can see there's some blobs there, so I'll just pick one up. But actually it's just crumbs, so that's fine. There's no big chunks of butter, so that's exactly what we want. Perfect, lovely. Right, we're going to go to the oven now. So just over here, if you haven't done so already, pop your oven on. It depends on your oven really, what temperature. I'd say 170 is a good place to start. You don't want to burn it. You can always turn it up, but if you start off too hot, then it's a lot harder to turn it down and slow it down. So put it on about 170, 180. Make sure there's nothing in the oven. There isn't, so that's good. So now we'll move on to the next part and we'll add our oats and we'll add our sugar. So here are the oats. And just use your recipe. So we want 50 grams of oats there, so that goes in, lovely. And then we also want 25 grams of sugar. So the sugar should look like this, should be half of the oats. If you've got the same amount of the oats, that's not right, you're putting too much sugar. Then we want 2 eating apples and some sultanas. So we'll come on to that in a moment. If you have a mixture looking like this, that's great. You just need stirring, so you can do that by hand because you've already rubbed in. If you don't want to get your hands dirty, you can by all means use something to stir it. You can use a spoon or a wooden spoon, it's totally up to you, but they just need mixing around. Doesn't need to be perfect, just like that. Lovely. Okay, so following your recipe, we've done the rubbing in the fat and flour. We've stirred in the oats and sugar, so we're on number 4 now. We need to cut the apples. So, this is where this gadget comes in. Did you figure out what it is? It is a handy dandy apple cutting machine. So, if you have one of these, bit of flour stuck to there. If you have one of these, you'll know, but you push it on there like this. You have to push quite hard. And if I do it this way around, you'll be able to see. You turn the wheel, and basically the apple will move forwards and it will hit this thing here. This is a little cutting blade. Alright, it's going to wiggle around a bit. And as it turns, this blade will cut the apple. This part will core it and this part will cut it. So we'll see what happens. I'm just going to help it out a bit here because I can see it's going to struggle. So, let's see what happens. Round it goes. If I go a bit faster. Ooh. There we go. Lovely. So, there's my apple peel. There's my apple. Looks a bit like a slinky. Lovely. And then there's my core. So we don't really need the core, so that can get taken off. No, that's taken off. If you don't have one of these, they're great. Be a bit careful. They are quite sharp. There are a few little blades on there and things. So if you are doing this at home, make sure somebody at home helps you. Just don't do that on your own. If you don't have one of these, it's not a problem. You can use a potato peeler or an apple peeler and just peel the outside of the apple. You don't have to peel it. If you like the apple peel on there, you can leave it as well. Again, if you're doing this on your own, use a normal knife, but if you've got a bit of supervision, then you can use a sharp knife. You want to cut the apple into pieces. This one's already been done a bit, but you want to cut it into pieces so that you can lay your apple pieces in the bottom of your baking tray. Again, it's up to you what size tray you use. I've gone for a nice round one here, but you can, if you wish, use a loaf tin instead, so you can use one of these. If you have a brownie tin or something else, that's absolutely fine. I'd like you to experiment with the recipe as well. So if you're thinking, oh, I want to put more crumble on mine, or I want more apple in mine, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to follow the recipe exactly. It's just a recommendation. So if you think, I like twice as much crumble on mine, then double your quantities. Test it out, see what you've got. If you're going to cut the apple and just chop it up and put it in, you can do that, that's absolutely fine. It says on the recipe to quarter it, so cut it a couple of times. I like to use the claw grip here, so I hold on to the side carefully. And a good tip is to put your fingers in like this, so you can't cut your fingers at all when you're cutting. So it's a sort of grip like that, you just rest your hand there. And then you can just cut straight down onto the chopping board again, just like this. Alright, whenever you're using a knife, just think, if I slip, where's it going to go? So if I slip like that, it's going to go in the chopping board. If I slip away from me, that's fine. You don't want to cut towards you, because that's when you can have an accident. So just be careful when you're using your knife. If you've got some nice pieces like this, you can lay them around in a circle in the bottom, create a pattern if you like. See if it's still there once it's cooked, it's up to you. So, once we've done all of our apple, I will chop this up a bit and see. Bit of an experiment here, we're going to try some apple that has got some skin on it and some that hasn't. I personally prefer not to have the skin. I think it's nicer without the skin. The skin can make it a little bit chewy, so I normally take the skin off. So I'd recommend doing that for yours as well. You can use a knife to take the skin off if you wish. Just try and take some little slices. But as I say, it's much easier using a peeler. So here's a peeler. So again, you can press it and just away from you, peel the apple like this. Watch out for your finger here on the end. Do it flat on the chopping board, it's much easier. Just peel away from you like that. And you can get all your peelings off. If you want somebody else to help you with that, that's absolutely fine. You might find it's easier to peel it as a whole apple before you chop it up into pieces as well. So, there we go. Right, there's enough in there. I'll just chop this one up and pop it in. Again, I think if I was to do this again, I'd remove all the skin, but there we go, we shall see. Right, plenty of apple in there, I've got a good layer. So now all that remains to do is number 6, sprinkle the crumb topping over the apples. Now it does mention on the recipe sultanas. I'm not a massive fan of sultanas, but I have some cranberries, and I do like cranberries, so we're going to give that a go. Use some scissors to open the packet. You don't have to do this, this is optional, but if you wish, pop some cranberries in there. There we go, lovely. Spread them around, make sure they're all like that. Some people like to put a bit of sugar on here at this point, but I will say there is sugar in our crumble mix, so we don't need to, but if you want to, you can sprinkle a little bit of brown sugar onto this. It caramelises in the oven with the apple, and you get a really nice toffee tasting apple base, so that's a really good thing to do too. So we'll try and sprinkle our crumble mix onto there, just rub it around, make sure you've got an even coating, lovely. You can use a fork if you like to make a pattern in the top, it's entirely up to you. I think that's a good quantity. Now we don't want it piled up too much, it's a little bit of a heap here. If you look at it side on, you'll be able to see that it's heaped up a little bit. We don't really want to do that, we want to try and flatten it off a bit. So I'm just going to push it around into the corners. That's it, lovely. Now, tip from my mum, what she likes to do is she grabs some and squeezes it to make some little lumps like that. So she deliberately likes some chunky bits. And the reason for that is when it cooks, you'll get some really big chunks of crumble that have stuck together. So you can do a few of those on the top as well. It really is whatever you fancy. If you want chunky crumble, do chunky crumble. If you want really fine like sand, then go for it. It's up to you. You're the chef, it's your creation. Right, this is good for the oven now. Just to be safe, I might put a tray under this, just so it doesn't bubble over in the oven. But if we go over to the oven here, I'm going to pop this into the oven now. Top shelf is fine. You might want to use the middle shelf for this, but top shelf is fine. Not too hot, so 160, 170, something like that. If you have a look at the instructions, it says 190 or gas mark 5. I'm going to give it about 10 minutes and then I will check it. It says 25 to 30, but I think after 10-15 minutes you want to be looking at it. If your crumble has started burning, you don't want to leave it in there for half an hour and just think it'll be fine. Give it 10 minutes, have a look through the glass and see what's happening. Let's check back on it in 10 minutes, guys. Okay. Okay, welcome back. It's been about 10 minutes, so I'm going to check using my temperature probe. If you don't have one of these, I'd recommend. They're very, very useful. It gives you a really quick indication of how hot your food is. Can anyone tell me what temperature you are looking for on my magic device? So if you're not sure, just pause and have a think for a minute. What number am I looking for to see if my crumble is cooked? It's especially important if we were cooking meat. So what number, temperature, degrees centigrade am I looking for? The answer is 75. So if your food has reached 75, that should have killed the bacteria inside and it's safe to eat. So it's a good indication if things are cooked. If you don't have this, that's fine. You can do a visual check. You're looking for it to be golden brown and it should have dextrinized. So when you cook flour, it does something, it's called dextrinization, and that's where the starch basically sort of becomes a bit more of a sugar, if you like. Dextrose is a sugar, and your food should look nice and golden brown. All right, so that's what we're looking for. So we'll have a look. I don't think it's ready, but let's see. So there we go. Ooh. So it's still quite a nice yellowy colour. I'm using some oven mitts here to be careful. Yeah, I would say that isn't quite cooked yet, but we shall see. So let's use our temperature probe and see. So I'll pop it in, and the numbers are saying 61, 76, oh, 78, 80. So that is cooked. You could take that out and leave it, and that would be absolutely fine. But I like my crumble a little bit browner. That looks a little bit pale to me. So I'm going to give it another 5 minutes, and then I think it will be done. So I'll show you the final version when it's cooked, and that will be it for today. Hopefully yours will look a little bit like this as well. So yeah, enjoy, happy cooking. As I say, try different quantities in your crumble. You can up the sugar a bit, or you can use brown sugar to make it more caramelized. Also, you can try using different types of apple. So you've got Bramleys, you could use Royal Gala, whatever you've got at home. Have a little experiment, it's really good. I put cranberries in mine, but you could put raisins in yours or anything you fancy. So yeah, let me know how you get on. Good, enjoy guys, bye for now. Welcome back. We are going to take a look at my crumble. Is it cooked? Oh, I think it is. So let's see. It should be, yes it is, golden brown, which it is, lovely. Smelling lovely as well. Don't use a tea towel when taking things out of the oven. Always use a mitt or something nice and thick. If your tea towel is wet, when that touches the hot tray, it will turn to steam and it will hurt your fingers. So please always think about that. Use a dry tea towel, or an oven mitt is always better. Right, let's have a little look at this. I've put it on the hob there, but if you have a tray, one of these cooling racks, you can use one of these to pop it on to cool. How do we know if it's cooked? Well, it should be golden brown, which it is, and we'll temperature probe it with my handy machine. Do you remember what number we're looking for? Well, 75 or above. Yep, that's 75 now. It's just gone up, so that's perfect. If you get anything lower, it's not a problem. It's apple, so it's quite safe. If this was meat, we'd want to make sure it was definitely 75. But I'm very happy with that. Golden brown, smelling great. I'm going to dive right in and eat some of that. I'll wait for it to cool a little bit. Don't want to burn my mouth, so maybe 5 minutes time. Maybe a bit of ice cream on the side. Cream. I'll see if I have some in the fridge. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed that. Next week, I'll post another video. All the recipes are on Google Teams, so feel free to go on, see what's coming up next week. If you can get ingredients in time, cook along with me, and I hope you enjoyed it. I did. I'm going to eat that now, so I'll see you later. Bye guys.